Hello, everyone. Welcome to week one of Overwhelmed to On Purpose. This week, we are going to dive all into mastering our state of being. Now, this, in my opinion, is one of the most transformational techniques or transformational concepts in allowing us to be more on purpose with our day-to-day lives. Like we can read all the books about, how we can raise our vibrations and all that sort of thing. But until we can actually practically put this in place and do it intentionally on the micro level, like when I'm talking about micro level, I'm talking about like when we feel like we're in the middle of a trigger, or for very prime example for me as a mom is that when my toddler is having a meltdown, and I can very easily allow myself to spiral into a very emotional response, or I can control or master my state of being and come from a place of um, a better response, so to speak. And I'm talking about those little moments where we want to show up as somebody who is in control of the situation and able to elicit a more or influence a more favorable outcome for ourselves, right? And a lot of the times it's to do with how we respond to that situation, how we carry ourselves through that situation. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And yeah, I hope you find this really useful because this is one of the most transformational things that I was able to learn and put in place and kickstart my journey into creating a life that is so on purpose. Like it's still a work in progress because like life doesn't automatically become smooth as soon as we decide that we are in control. Life is always going to throw us challenges. Life is always going to go the way it's going to go. But what difference it makes is that how we bring ourselves to that situation, how we respond to it, how we evolve from it. And so this is what we're going to spend the next 4 weeks trying to master. And I'm going to teach you tools, modalities, and all that sort of thing that you will need that you can take away from these 4 weeks and implement and watch your life change. And on what I want to preface by saying is that this is a very intentional process. And it's very intentional in the sense that we have to decide, we have to act accordingly, and we have to commit to the decision that we've made in order to make a change. Okay. And so I want to start off today's training. So what I will do is I will now share my screen. I've got a little presentation, which the purpose of this presentation really is just to plant seeds into your subconscious or unconscious mind. That way it reminds you of how it gives you a bit of a visual of what the practicality of it looks like. Okay. And so, whew, fantastic. Okay. So welcome to week one of Overwhelmed to On Purpose. I am Elisa Lord. Of course, you know that before you signed up to this program. I hope you've watched the welcome video, which delves into um, my story, my credentials, and all that sort of thing. And so I just want to dive straight into it in this particular training. And so today we're going to talk about mastering our state of being able to show up as we are the way we intend to. So I came across this quote as I was making this little slides. I feel like this is very apt for this particular week, is that we are free to choose the palette of our emotional sky. I am the most powerful creator of my reality. I am the artist in charge of designing my internal landscape. I embrace my power to paint the emotions that I want to color my world. This is my liberation. Notice that it doesn't talk about how we change our external reality. in order for us to feel the worthiness or to feel the purposefulness, the fulfillment. It's all about how we choose to feel on the inside, how we decide to be. And from that place, we create the reality outside of us. And this is one of the main and biggest takeaway that I want you to take away from, is that we first have to be the person that we desire to be in order to create the reality that we want to live, right? So if we desire a life that is filled with joy and happiness, right? If we don't innately know how to feel joyful and happy on the inside, and we allow external things to dictate how we feel, then we are never going to be able to sustain that happiness and joy that we want to create in our lives, right? We'll forever be influenced by what happens around us. If we can find joy and happiness regardless of what happens outside of us, you've won the game. And that's what this is what this week is about. And I pulled a card the other day as well, as I was doing this set of slides, and jump in, right? Open up your mind, open up your heart, and allow yourself to be immersed in this experience. And one of the things that, you can make everything mean something or everything means nothing. It cannot be one or the other. You can, see signs everywhere and make it mean that you are on the right track, or that it's reminding you that you are off track, that you need to come back to your lane and proceed in the trajectory that you intend to in the first place. Or you can ignore everything and just put on your blinders and allow yourself to just be guided, or just allow yourself to be influenced by your external circumstances. So what I'm trying to say here is that you are in charge. You are definitely in charge. You are in control of the outcome of your life, right? We can't control what happens outside of us. We can control what happens inside of us. And this is our responses. This is our emotions. This is our feelings, our actions, our choices, our decisions. All stems from this. It all stems from how we guide ourselves internally. And so, jumping straight into it, this little image here is something that I want you to be able to remember and take away. It is our state of being, how we feel in the moment, how we carry ourselves, how we make decisions, our choices, our default choices, right? You know how sometimes we are faced with a situation where we have to make a decision. Sometimes we have this impulse decision that we make that is controlled by our state of being. And our state of being is largely predicated on how we've been programmed since our childhood, right? And if you can say things like, I'm a happy person, or I'm a sad person, I'm an anxious person, that is our state of being. And we have decided our state of being based on past experiences, based on past programming, based on societal conditioning, generational conditioning, and all of that. And that's why certain things that we go into, we make particular choices and decisions based on how we are programmed. And so, for example, if you go to a party or a gathering of some sort, and you are naturally a shy person, or you claim to be, and you've adopted the identity of being a shy person, when you walk into a room full of people, you are naturally going to retract, right? Or you'll go in and quickly find a clique of people that you can relate to, or that you know, and you go to them in order to be able to, come out of your shell. And that is your state of being. If you've decided that you are a shy person, then you will show up as a shy person, right? You will start feeling, so when you decide that you're a shy person, you go into a room full of people, you are starting to feel inside of you retracting or detracting, right? And you start to feel anxious, you start to feel like your heartbeat is going to quicken, etc. And that forms your thoughts. right? You're thinking, oh my God, there's so many people in this room. They're all looking at me. Am I underdressed? Am I overdressed? Am I in the right place, etc. And that it then feeds into the feeling of your anxiousness, and then which creates more thoughts that support that anxiousness. And you see how it becomes such a vicious cycle, right? And so what this image shows us is that we can control our state of being if we can control either our thoughts or our feelings, right? And it can be one or the other. You can, in the moment, decide to choose to feel a better feeling and allow that feeling to create better thoughts that then feeds into a better feeling, then that creates better thoughts again. And it breaks that cycle of feel like your anxiousness and your shyness, and it creates a new cycle of positivity. And this is the power that I want you to be able to stand in, is to be able to become the master of how you're feeling in the moment, that then create thoughts that support that feeling and create that new cycle. Or you can control the thoughts that you're thinking, allow that to take root in your body and create that feeling and sensation that that thought brings for you. And then allow that feeling to create more thoughts of positivity that then creates that feeling of positivity in the moment. And this is something that is going to be quite challenging, especially if you're not used to controlling your state of being, right? If you're constantly allowing your mind and your feelings to run your state of being, like your physiology and how you approach situations, then this is going to be a challenge for you. But that's where it starts, right? You got to start somewhere. And this, I want to empower you to know that you are in control and that you can, at any time, decide to feel a certain way, right? And create thoughts that support that. We're going to dive into how we're going to do that in a minute. But I really want you to feel empowered knowing that this is the cycle that we can be in control of, right? A lot of times we come into this world and we are influenced in our childhood about how we are and, the certain beliefs that we hold about ourselves, about the world, how we view the world. But we can change that at any time, right? One of the things that I learned and really helped me as well is that everything, all the conditioning that we have right now have served us at some point in the past. And it was necessary for our survival at that point in time. However, today, if that particular belief is holding us back from fulfilling our dreams and desires and purpose, or it's holding us back from being the fullest expression of ourselves, from being the mom that we want to be, from being the partner that we want to be, from attracting the partner that we want to attract, from attracting the wealth that we want to experience in this world, then that belief no longer holds any use for us. And that's a belief that we need to drop, right? And once we drop that belief, you can start creating a new belief where it will support, creating a business or changing careers, or, the way we carry ourselves, the way we speak, the way we share our thoughts, the way we express ourselves in the world. And I personally have seen such a huge difference in this, in how I show up as a mom on a day-to-day basis. Like, not even how I show up in the world where the rest of the world can see me, but in the way that I interact with my almost 3-year-old now. And not only did that help me feel like I'm a better mother, it definitely created such a deeper level of connection with me and my daughter, right? And that's the side effect of me being in control of how I approach a situation, right? When my daughter had a meltdown before in the past, when all toddlers have meltdowns, and when that happens in the moment, I used to allow myself to feel either anger or frustration or, whatever it is that, whatever feeling that comes up. A lot of us are preconditioned to think that anger, frustration, fear, sadness, all of those sort of feelings that creates that has any sort of outburst of emotion like tears and screaming and shouting and all that sort of thing. We're preconditioned to think that those emotions are bad emotions, right? And so it brings up in us a feeling or a reaction where we want to tell them to stop shouting, stop screaming, stop crying, stop feeling angry, etc. It's not good, blah, blah. And so that then created thoughts where, I started thinking of ways of how I can control her emotions. And when I can't, because she's outside of me, I can't control how she feels, it created more feelings of frustration. And then it feeds into more thoughts about, oh my God, I can't control how she feels. I can't make her feel better. I'm such a failure as a mother, blah, blah. You see how it spirals? And so once I learned about, how emotions are neutral, emotions are just that emotions, it's just energy in motion, it's emotions that are energy that's moving through our body, and accepted that she is at a stage in her life where, she's learning about learning how to regulate her own nervous system, right? And I am there as a guide to help her through that journey. It stopped becoming about me, it became about her. And when I thought about it that way, how can I regulate my own emotions to feel and bring myself to that situation with such neutrality and love for her to be able to support her through this journey? Then that created a feeling of nurture. It created a feeling of love. It created a feeling of wanting to support. And that fed into the thoughts of, okay, how can I be supportive of her at this point in time? How can I give her more nurturing words of affirmations to help her through this particular situation, right? And then it feeds into the feeling of, positivity coming from a place of nurture and love instead of coming from a place of wanting to control the situation, right? I'm controlling my own state of being to be able to present myself to that situation in a more productive way and getting the results or influence the outcome of the situation. Like chances are she's going to regulate her own emotions anyway, right? But I can bring myself into the situation and come out of it feeling frustrated. I can come out of it feeling empowered or feeling a deeper connection with her. And that's how I was able to, show up differently as a mother, show up differently for her to know that I am a safe space for her, right? That it's not her fault for having all these emotional outbursts, etc. I'm using this example because it's the most relevant to me right now. And if you're a parent, you will know that. But that's the key thing of it, is that when you're able to control how you approach a situation, how you present yourself in a situation, you're better able to influence the outcome and have an outcome that is more favorable to you, right? And not just in the immediate sense. Sometimes you don't see the immediate effect of your state of being, controlling your state of being immediately after the situation, but it compounds. It does compound, and you will start seeing a huge shift in how you carry yourself in general, not just in that situation, but it starts in the micro moments. It starts in how you present yourself, how you react to situations, how you respond to situations, and how you control your state of being. And I want to touch on root cause for a moment. And this is a good segue into emotions. And emotions are just that. Our feelings, you can say that you're feeling uncomfortable, etc., but it's always an emotion that is driving how you feel, right? And the thoughts that you think. And in order to be able to integrate that emotion, to not allow that emotion to define you, to define your life, your identity, your personality, we need to be able to get to the root cause of that emotion, right? And how we get to it is that the root cause of particular emotion or feeling is what we focus on, right? On our day-to-day lives. We can either focus on really good things or really bad things, or we can focus on how we're being productive or how we're being destructive. We can focus on how we are on the right track or how far we are from our goals. It also has to do with our physiology, how we feel within ourselves, in our body, right? If we focus on feeling tired all the time, instead of feeling, I'm alive today, see how that's a different energy? That feeds into the root cause of how we're feeling as well, and the meaning we put behind it, right? And so the meaning, for example, if we focus on, say, for example, we're feeling tired all the time, and that's what we focus on, is the feeling of feeling tired, and that's all we focus on, and then the meaning that we put behind it is that, I'm always tired because whatever meaning you put behind it, right? So it could be that my health isn't great, or that I don't put enough focus onto myself, or that, I'm just, there's not enough time in the day, etc. That forms part of the root cause of how we are feeling. And we'll dive more into this in the coming weeks as well, and also in the next few slides. But the root cause of how we're feeling has got different moving parts to it. It's not just one particular thing. It's not just one particular situation. It's not that, you just need to sleep more or that you need to rest more. There's so many layers to it. Like, for example, I'm a mom to a toddler. I have a 9 to 5 job, running a business, running a household, etc. And I am doing more now than I was 5 years ago. But 5 years ago, I can tell you for certain that I felt more tired and more time restricted than I feel right now. And that is because I have worked out the root cause of the feeling of feeling tired all the time, right? And I worked on fixing that. And so once I got to the root cause of why I was feeling tired all the time, then I was able to integrate that feeling and show up the way that I want to show up today, right? So the first thing I did was I stopped focusing on the feeling of feeling tired all the time, right? I wake up in the morning. Yes, I'm tired. What's the reason of being tired? I was up all night with my toddler. And I can't change that, right? I can't change what's happened last night. And I can't help that my body is feeling a little bit more tired today. However, I can also choose to focus on, I'm awake now, I'm alive today, and I get to show up today to my mission, my purpose, and all that sort of thing. The way that I feel alive, I want to feel alive. So I can focus on feeling alive rather than feeling tired. And in terms of physiology, I can feel the aches and pains, etc., right? But I can also choose to feel my body being able to move through the feelings of the aches and pains. Like, I'm currently 34 weeks pregnant, and I can choose to focus on feeling the aches and pains, or I can do something about it, right? Can choose to do a bit of stretches, go for a walk, or sit in the sun for a little bit, let the sun energize me and change the physiology of how I feel in that moment and the meaning that I put behind it. The meaning of feeling tired. Does feeling tired mean that I can't show up today the way I want to? I can't do the things that I intended to do for today. I can easily make it mean that. I can easily make it mean that, oh, I really need to slow down and really honor myself today. Honor my energy, honor my feelings, and just cancel everything and just not do anything. I have the freedom to. I can choose to do that. Or I can choose to still show up in my power, knowing that I have a body that is well able to transmute through whatever it is that I'm feeling at the moment, right? Like I might feel pain in my hips. However, sitting here on a Zoom call with you guys, I don't utilize my hips, right? All that much. So I can use the excuse of feeling the aches and pains and not show up, or I can choose to believe that my body, I have a body that is healthy, that is supportive of me, and I can still show up to my mission. See how there's different layers to it and how we can use each of these layers to move through whatever it is that we're feeling and get to the root cause of what it is that is actually causing this feeling, and then move through it. And we really want to be able to get to the root cause of why we're feeling a certain way. And that could be something that happened in childhood. That could be something that happened last week. It could be something that we hear all the time from people. A lot of times when we move through life, we have conversations with strangers, with peers, with our partners, with our friends. It can create like an unconscious belief within us that we adopt from the words that we hear and all that sort of thing, if we're not careful about, standing firm in our own power, in our own beliefs, and in our own values. And so it's a great time to also examine that, right? Where did this belief come from? Is it truly what I believe? Do I really believe that I have to work really, really hard to make ends meet? Do I really believe that life is about living from paycheck to paycheck? Do I really believe that working full time is the only way to financially support my family? Is being a full-time mom the only way to become a good mom, a nurturing mom, right? And is owning a business, creating a business, the only way to obtain freedom, time freedom? Is it? Maybe, but building a business isn't for everybody, right? So you need to examine where this feeling originates from. And we'll dive into that in the next couple of weeks as well. How are we doing for time? Not too bad. All right. I remember I said in the beginning, everything is intentional. Everything is intentional, and you have to be intentional. When you want to master your state of being, when you want to be the creator of your reality, if you want to create the kind of life that you want to live, you want to create the kind of person that you want to become, everything has to be intentional. Everything either means something or everything means nothing, but everything has to be intentional. You have to come to it from a place of, this is who I want to be. And everything that follows that is conscious, intentional, with purpose, and in control by yourself. And how do we do that? I've got a very easy framework for you. The first is you have to decide. You have to decide what it is that you want, right? A lot of us come into this world, I need to search for my purpose. I don't know what my purpose is. We go to healing sessions, we go traveling, we go do this, we go do that, in searching of a purpose for our lives. What if I told you that you get to decide, you get to choose what your purpose is? You get to decide, maybe your purpose in life is to be a mom. Maybe your purpose in life is to be an artist. Maybe your purpose in life is to create a business. Maybe your purpose in life is to travel. What if I told you you get to decide what your purpose is and go from there? Because again, everything that is outside of us is so out of our control. If you're looking for your purpose outside of you, you're never going to find one that is going to fulfill you in the way that finding the purpose that is within you, that you have chosen, right? if you choose a certain thing to be your purpose and you act based on that, you are going to create such fulfillment, innate fulfillment, that you're never going to feel by letting something outside of you decide, right? You can't find yourself outside of yourself. You might travel and experience certain things, but if you're looking externally for some sort of validation, for some sort of sign, for some sort of like somebody to teach you or somebody to tell you what your purpose is, it might lead you to your own, to this anyway, to know that you choose your purpose. And that's a roundabout way of doing it. But I'm telling you today that you get to decide what your purpose is, and you get to decide how you want to be. You get to decide who you want to be. And you can't let anybody else tell you otherwise. You can't let anybody else limit you. You can't let anybody else tell you that what you feel inside is not true, right? Because how would they know? How would they know what you're feeling? How would they know? You know how it, when you watch movies and say there's lines where people say, I know you better than you know yourself. Probably because they can see things that you are not seeing, or or you are allowing others to make decisions for you. But only you will know which camp you're sitting on, which table you're sitting at. Are you sitting at the table where you are ready to see yourself for who you are, who you want to be, and what you want your life to turn out to be? Or are you sitting at the table where you're allowing others to influence you, to tell you what it is that is possible, to tell you what it is that you get to do with your life? Like a lot of what we want, what we desire, if we want it, that comes from somewhere within us. It's entirely possible for you if you decided to make it your sole mission and purpose. And isn't that just so empowering? Isn't that just the most encouraging thing that you can hear? Is that you get to decide what your purpose is. And when you get to decide what your purpose is, it just cuts out all the noise of, what other people tell you that is possible, what you need to do, what you should be doing. You just decide. You do you, boo, right? And after deciding that, right? And don't just decide off the cuff. Definitely explore, is this decision mine? Do I want this because it is truly what I want? Or is it because it comes from somewhere outside? Make that decision. And once you've made that decision, we will talk about that. We'll deep dive into this in the following weeks as well. But just know that it is in your power to make a decision, a choice of where you want your life to end up, who you want to end up to be. And it doesn't have to be big and audacious. Like, this is the thing. You talk about dream life, you talk about, dream realities and all that sort of thing. It looks so differently from everybody. I used to get so dragged into this whole vision of being nomadic lifestyle, laptop lifestyle, etc. And I tried it. We went traveling for a year, me and my partner, my then partner, now husband, went traveling for a year, nomadic lifestyle. It wasn't for us. We couldn't wait to come back and set up roots. And now we're creating this life and we're setting up our lives the way that we really want to. So really examine what it is. Sometimes you have to go out there and try it. And if you decide that it's not for you, then you get to change course. And again, that's the decision piece. You get to decide, right? Don't just follow along somebody, or don't just be so attracted to Pinterest and Instagram and other people's vision boards, etc. Know truly inside what it is that you want. Decide from that place and then take action from it, right? And that's the next bit, is to act. Take action. When you've decided something, write it down, put it in your vision board, write it in your journal, put it as your phone wallpaper, write it on a post-it note, paste it on your mirror, paste it on your car dash or wherever, anywhere that you can be reminded of the decision that you have made. And then you act from that place. You take action. There's no more excuses after that. Everything that you do from then on, choices that you make, feelings that you feel, thoughts that you adopt, beliefs that you need to let go of, and new beliefs that you need to adopt, all has to align with the decision that you've made. That's the taking action part, right? When you make choices, if you've decided that you're going to be a happy person, you have to react to situations as if you are a happy person. And I'm not talking about, like smiling like an idiot or, just being happy when people treat you like crap. You have to make decisions that will allow yourself to be happy. So if you're in a relationship, for example, that's causing you to feel miserable, but you want to innately feel happy with your life, then it's time to set up boundaries to, let people know, put a stake in the ground and show people that this is the line that I'm drawing. And this is the boundary that I'm keeping. That's the sort of actions that we're talking about, right? And it gets to be so easy, right? I was speaking to somebody this morning about, she's not a client, but she's an acquaintance. And we were talking about how, it's Monday today, right? For example. And I used to dread Mondays so much. I hated Mondays because, it means the weekend is over and it's another 5 days of work that I need to show up to and in a job that I really didn't like at that point in time. And now Mondays are like my favorite days, right? And it didn't go from hating Mondays to loving Mondays straight away. It didn't happen like a flick of a switch, right? It started off with really small things, right? Taking small actions to make it part of your reality on a day-to-day basis, right? Just starting small. So it started off with me taking annual leave on a Monday just to, see how it feels like to not have to go to the office and work on a Monday and all that sort of thing, right? Sometimes it's those little actions that help you really tap into the feeling of what it's like to be in that place, to have the reality that you want. And then once you experience that, you're going to want to create and recreate that experience over and over and over again. And that happens intentionally. No one's going to come and give it to you. You have to make it happen intentionally. So you have to take action to actually make it happen. So I started taking annual leave on Mondays just to, live out my Mondays the way I want to live it out and see what that feels like. And then starting to put into place, put in action or in a plan how I can make this more permanent. In my case, I had a child. And so I had a child, and then we decided as a family that I was going to work part-time. And then I decided that, you know what? I'm not going to work on Mondays. I'm not going to make Mondays my working day. And so now my Mondays are how I decide my Mondays to be. Occasionally, sometimes I do go into work when, operational needs and all that sort of thing, and it suits, but I still get to decide what I do on Mondays. And Mondays are my favorite days now, right? Sophie goes to daycare. I have the time and space to work on my business, to go to appointments, or even go to the spa on Mondays. And it is such a dream. And that came from a decision that I made in the past that I no longer want to feel Monday blues anymore, right? And while speaking to this acquaintance this morning about, how I get to do that, And immediately when I said, why don't you try taking annual leave on a Monday? Or, and just see how that feels. And immediately all the excuses came out of her, like all the reasons as to why she can't do it. So I need to save my annual leave for a family holiday. I can't do that because it's gonna appear like I'm not committed to my job. I can't do that because, my husband will think this and that sort of way, etc. And all of these reasons are valid reasons, right? They're definitely real for her. However, there's also the other side to the coin of all of these are reasons, but there's also so many reasons to do it, right? And that's also the thread that we need to pull at, right? What sort of excuses are we giving ourselves to not act a certain way, to not take a certain action, to make a certain decision, right? And a lot of it comes from a belief or a fear, right? And that is something that we'll learn to integrate in this 4 weeks as well. And so I'm very excited to get you through the 4 weeks. But yeah. And then once we start taking action, we need to commit to taking actions over and over and over and over again, even when it's difficult, even when it seems like our surrounding isn't supporting us, even if it means that we have to be uncomfortable, even if it means that we have to face our fears, face our emotions, and be so uncomfortable with taking those actions. You know how I used to say this a lot as well is, you have to do what feels right. And I've kind of stopped saying it because it really made me examine what it really means. Like sometimes feeling right can be construed as easy. If it feels hard, then it must not be right. And that is no longer a belief that I take into my day-to-day or in my life. It is committing to the decision that you've made to be the person that you want to become. If you want to become a present mother, you have to make all the choices, take all the actions that allow you to show up as a present mother, right? So for example, for me, is mornings. Mornings is such a hectic time when you have a toddler that when you need to get ready for work, when you need to get them ready for daycare or school, and you need to do all of these things, right? To get everybody out of the house in the mornings. And to be an intentional mother in that situation can be quite challenging. But this is where controlling my state of being and remembering what I've decided and taking action from it and then committing to it, right? I used to be so flustered and being so annoyed when my toddler don't follow instructions or that, my husband is dilly-dallying. I mean, that's his side of things. But for me, I can't control what other people do, right? I can only ask or I can only request. And if that request doesn't get, followed or whatever, it is up to me how I respond to it, essentially, correct? And so what can I do in that situation? I can wake up a little bit earlier, get myself sorted, and then I can get my toddler sorted so I can be more present with her. So if there's any meltdown, it's not going to be like I have to get out in 5 minutes. And I can also decide, to start the previous night and put everything in order the previous night so that I can be present in the mornings and not rush. And we can all sit down and have breakfast together. That sort of thing, right? The commitment to the decision and the actions that we need to take in order to make certain things happen in our lives. That's all within our control. And it's all within us being in control of our state of being. Decide, act, commit. Decide, act, commit. Decide, act, commit. And how do we begin to do this? How do we begin to control our state of being? Conscious awareness. I'm very aware of time. So being conscious of where we are, being the observer of our thoughts and feelings is probably the best way to describe conscious awareness in this context, right? I was going to touch on to feminine and masculine, but I think we'll leave that for another week. Becoming the observer of our thoughts and feelings. That is the best way or the most effective way that I found to be able to control our state of being, right? Because when we're in a particular trigger or a particular emotion, it can be really difficult to bring ourselves out of it when we're in it, right? But again, no one's going to be there to hold our hand to tell you that, hey, you're spiraling. You really need to rein yourself back, or you really need to take control of how you're feeling right now. No one's going to come and tell you that, right? Not in the moment anyway. You may get out of the situation, get out of the trigger after the fact and reflect on it and realize that, oh, this is the moment when I was spiraling and that was the time to be able to get out. And when you reflect it that way, the next time when you start getting into that particular situation, you'll be better able to be aware of where you're at in terms of how you feel and then stop the spiral from there. And that's what becoming the observer is you take yourself out of the situation, right, as you're in it, and become the neutral party observing it. This is where I think can get a little bit confusing. How can I be the observer and also the person in it? And that's where this work is, it gives you the magic touch of being able to do that. You can be the person that's in the situation, but you can also still be the observer, the neutral observer that's impartial to the situation. And it takes emotional resilience, it takes conscious awareness, it takes inner power, it takes authority that we are going to build in these 4 weeks. And why is becoming the observer of the situation so helpful? You can take a screenshot of this, or I will put up this slide in the portal as well. Becoming the observer, and this is when you're reflecting, it can be either when you're reflecting on a situation or as you're doing it while you're in the situation, right? You gain such a deeper understanding as to how you feel internally and what's going on inside of you, right? Once you get that understanding of what's going on within you, you can start unraveling, or you can start exploring that and how you can work through your internal beliefs and all that sort of thing, and really start dismantling that if you need to dismantle it. And it creates a space for reflection and mindfulness, right? So it can be like, you come out of a situation and feeling really crap about how you responded to it. And that's still going to happen every now and again. We're all human. We're having a human experience. And what's important is that we reflect onto it and see what other things are going on beneath that needs to be addressed, right? So that next time that happens, you can show up differently. And once you're able to do that, you create such a sense of inner peace and clarity, right? And once you know that you're in control of that, you know that there's something going on beneath all of those emotions and outbursts and response or reactions. And you can intentionally work through that and feel so in control and so clear about your next steps, right? Because become aware of the patterns that you go through when certain situations happen, and the tendency of, spiraling, the tendencies of reacting in a certain way, right? Like for me, for example, I have a tendency to feel really annoyed when somebody dilly-dallies, because I like things to happen very timely and I like things to happen in a certain way. And when that doesn't happen, I have a tendency to react in a way that makes people fall in line, right? But it makes other people feel so crap. And so I've been more observant as to how I react to those situations and how I can elicit or influence the outcome that I desire in a different way that doesn't make other people feel crap, right? And in doing that, it gives you the power to choose how you respond to them so you don't feel so shit after, right? And that helps you develop such a greater emotional intelligence as well. And it creates such a deeper connection with the people around you, right? How do you want to be perceived? Do you want to be perceived as somebody who will, retaliate or react negatively when, life is just happening? Or do you want to be able to move through the ebb and flows of life, being so certain of who you are, regardless of challenges or things happening in your favor or out of your favor, but still being rooted in who you are and knowing that it all happens, for the greater good, right? And how can you become the observer? So I want to give you some practical things that you can do in the moment. You can screenshot this. This is gonna take practice. You're not gonna get it right all of the time. I still sometimes react in ways that I am not proud of. However, it takes practice. And once you're able to remember how to do it and become the observer and to be able to be in control of your state of being, it becomes so easy to do. It becomes so easy to recognize places or spaces where you haven't been able to do it. And that calls for attention, right? Then that's for you to then explore at a different time, the deeper layers of what's going on, right? But in the moment, in the micro moments, how do you bring yourself from being in the situation, being in the depths of feeling the anger, the frustration, and the sadness or fear as you're going through a certain situation? So for example, you're at work and your boss calls you in and maybe, alluded to something that you haven't done and say that it's your fault, etc. So you can easily get either angry or frustrated or fearful that you might lose your job, etc. How you go from being the person experiencing it to becoming the observer at the same time. First of all is pause. Recognize that you're having these feelings and take pause. And over time, over practice, this will become so quick to do. So just pause and take deep breaths. 3, sometimes 1. And when you take that deep breath, just imagine yourself floating up and watching that situation from above, right? As if you're like, your soul has come out of you and like hovering above you and just watching the scene play out. And then ask yourself, is there a better emotion, thought, or response than the one that I'm having right now? Is this how I really have to feel in this situation? Can I choose a better thought? Can I choose a better feeling? Can I choose to stand in my power, right? And then map that across, right? So for example, if you're feeling fearful, so like you're being accused of something that you haven't done and you're feeling scared and fearful, you can choose to hang on a minute. I do feel fearful about what's about to happen because I'm unsure and I don't know what's going on and I still gotta, stand in my place. You can also choose to approach that situation from a place of inner power. For example, rooting into the certainty that you know you've done the right thing, or even if you know you've done the wrong thing, right? You're still able to come from a place of authority rather than fear. So map that across to the emotion and allow that to take space in your mind and allow that to take root in your body, right? You might still feel a little bit of fear, but then you can respond from a place of inner power and authority. It takes practice. let's go back to this one a little bit. This is the kind of work that I do with my clients on a more intense process. Well, not intense, but in a more deep and, more the nitty-gritty stuff. So if that's something that you want to explore, send me a message and we can talk about working a little bit closer when it comes to doing that. And then I want to talk about integration as well. I earlier touched on emotion is energy in motion, which is a way to say that all emotions are neutral. There's no good or bad emotion. Emotions are a way our body processes certain triggers that we're going through. And, feeling angry, you can make, feeling angry over a certain situation. If you're unable to move past the anger, then that's something underlying that needs to be addressed in order to integrate that feeling of anger. And there's a saying that there's also this quote that I really love, is that memory without emotion, or memory with integrated emotion, is true wisdom. So you can go through a particular experience in life that in the moment as you're experiencing it brought up a lot of fear, anger, or sadness, and projecting it forwards now, maybe say 10, 15 years later, 5 years later, when you think back to that situation, right? And you still feel angry and sad and fearful when you think about that experience, that emotion hasn't been integrated. You haven't been able to fully learn what that experience is there to teach you, right? So once you integrate the emotions behind the experience, you're able to see the lesson that lies within it. Then you're able to use that lesson in your life right now. And that's trauma work as well, right? Is, things happen in the past, things that happen in the past that shapes who we are now, right? We can either allow it to define us, or we can allow it to teach us and move on from it a better person. So using emotion as a function, let it tell us what it is that we need to work on ourselves. Let it tell us, what patterns are we holding? Is it destructive? Is it constructive? Right? Using emotion as the catalyst to showing us what lessons we need to learn. What is it that we need to learn? If like certain things happen that keeps making us feel sad, right? Then we explore why sad, right? Or like if it really helps you to look at the underlying layers of why we feel a certain way about certain situations, right? When we allow the emotion to dictate and define how we go about our goals and our dreams and our desires and who we are as a person, it tends to make you play smaller. It tends to veer you away from your North Star, right? So say, for example, you want to start a business, right? And then each time you have to create content, you feel fearful, you feel afraid. And so if you went with that, if you went with your feelings, then you probably won't show up and create content. However, if you discover what lies beneath that fear and start working through that, then you might start showing up and creating content for your business, right? Using your emotion as a function. I just want to insert this clip here just to show you the thermal representation of each feeling, right? And see how love and happiness, especially happiness, that's the energy that it has throughout your body, excuse me. and we'll touch on this as well. So the main things that, we can talk about how we feel and really be so attached to the label of, for example, feeling shameful or feeling guilty, right? A lot of us do feel a lot of guilt, especially after I became a mom. Guilt was a very ever-present feeling. Like I feel like I couldn't do anything right or things like that. And if we look underneath, if we relabel the feelings, it can be easier for us to integrate, or it can be easier for us to identify what the root cause is. And so, for example, feeling mom guilt, right? Mom guilt, what is the root cause of the mom guilt, right? And once we get to the root cause of what it is, we can start to reframe it. And that's what one of the last things I want to show you today is how to integrate your emotion as a function. First, we identify what the emotion is. So for example, guilt, right? Feeling guilty. So for example, sometimes I feel guilty for sending my child to daycare when I could probably not send her to daycare and spend the day with her, taking care of her and have her at home with me while I go about my day, etc. But then ask myself, is this really what I feel? Do I really feel guilty about sending her to daycare? Like, what is the actual emotion that I'm feeling? I could feel a bit, let's go back to this one. So I could feel a little bit shameful, maybe, that, there are mothers out there who can build their business, show up for their business with their kids running around the background and be able to still show up in their fullest potential with their kids running around and being a present mother. Which leads to the emotion of sadness, right? The underlying feeling of guilt is sadness, right? So how can I reframe this, right? How can I reframe this? Is to chunk down to find the root cause of that feeling. So why do I feel guilty about sending my child to daycare, right? And ultimately, if I chunk it down further enough, I could come to, not saying it is, I could come to the conclusion that I feel guilty about sending my child to daycare because I feel like I should be able to have my child around as I go about my day and my business, etc. And I feel sad that I can't do that, that I'm not in a place to do that, or that I have chosen not to do that. Then I can reframe that emotion to, instead of sadness, right, choosing to feel like I am, say, for example, love, right? My daughter loves going to daycare, right? And she loves the interaction that she gets to have with other kids and all that sort of thing. And I love watching her bloom into this person, such a socialized child. Like my daughter is like the most socialized kid out there. And she definitely didn't get that from me because I'm a very introverted person. Like, take Sophie to daycare or take Sophie to a playground, she'll find friends. She will go out there, she'll play, she'll find friends, she'll play with them, etc. Kids she's never met before. She definitely didn't get that from me because I'm naturally not that kind of person. And that's probably something there for me to work through as well. And so I can reframe that guilt to feeling love and feeling grateful that, I'm able to send her to daycare, that we can afford it, that she loves it, right? And feeling grateful instead of feeling guilty that I made this choice and this decision, right? And that's how you can reframe how a certain emotion comes up in you. And again, this takes practice, and we really deep dive into this in my personal coaching containers, in how we integrate our emotions. And we'll touch on that in the weeks to come as well. And in a very generalized way that you can take away and practice that for yourself. But if you really want to really work into this, like if guilt or fear or sadness or anger is a huge part of your how you run on a day-to-day basis, and you just can't move past that, then send me a message and we can work through that with you. I do this technique called ECT, emotional change technique, where we go to the origin of where this emotion has started for you in your lifetime and integrate that. It's a very powerful tool, a very powerful technique that has helped me personally show up the way I am showing up today. Like, if you told me to come in today, even 6 months ago, to come in and deliver a training like this, I will be overthinking so much, and I'll be like, I need to write script, I need to write notes, blah, 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 blah. But no longer. That fear has been integrated, and I know that showing up the way I'm showing up as I am right now is exactly what is needed in this training and in this container. And that is exactly what I'm going to do, right? And then if there's something that, if I make a mistake in the meantime, then I learn from that, right? So I've integrated my fear when it comes to doing presentations like this. Anyway, perception is projection. This is the last thing that I'm going to touch on. We are over an hour. I was secretly worried that I'm not going to have enough material for today, but I'm glad that it's gone this way. I really wanted to end with the meditation, so I might upload that as a separate module or a separate resource that you can tap into, because I really want to give you a meditation or an experience, a journey through being able to say goodbye to the old version of yourself that has now decided that she wants to be in control of who she is. She wants to be in control of her life, how it plays out, and make the decision to move forward with authority and decisiveness and certainty. And one thing I want to leave you with is perception is projection. Okay. Everything that we have in life right now, everything that's in our surrounding, is a reflection of who we are internally. Whether you like it or not, some of you are going to reject this notion. But everything that's in our vicinity, everything that's in our world right now, is a projection of who we are. So, for example, if you have a partner who dilly-dallies a lot and really gets on your nerves, right? How do you dilly-dally with the things that you're meant to be doing? If your house is constantly in a mess, you tidy it up, and then it gets messy in like 5 seconds. It happens. How are you messy with your life? If you go out and about and you keep experiencing people who are rude, who are unkind, who are inconsiderate, how are you inconsiderate to yourself? Where are you inconsiderate to yourself? Where are you unkind to yourself? Where are you disrespectful to yourself? Again, this is emotion as a function, right? Seeing things to mean something in a way that you can work through it. So if you're experiencing something in your day-to-day where somebody's unkind to you, right? Instead of thinking that I don't deserve kindness, you can think of it as, where am I being unkind to myself? And where can I be kinder to myself? Right? And this is all the inner work that goes on behind the scenes. This is where the multi-layers of personal development and inner work, it's not just reading a book and knowing a concept, and knowing is great, but knowing what to do with it and actually doing it is the transformative piece. Okay. I'm not going to touch more on this right now. I just want you to know that everything that we created in our surroundings right now is a perception, right? And the perception of it is what we project from internally and externally. Another way to say this is our inner world is a reflection of what is outside of us, or our external world is a reflection of what's internally happening within us, right? If we perceive as something to be negative, there's something negative going inside that is ready to be addressed, right? And don't overthink it as well. Don't overthink, oh, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? The first thing that comes up to your mind, the first thing that comes up is usually what is relevant right now. And that's your unconscious mind talking, right? We'll dive more into this as well as the week goes on. But your unconscious mind, the easiest way to talk about it is that your unconscious mind is the first thing that pops up into your head. Without overthinking it, without judgment, without perception, the first thing that comes up is your unconscious mind talking to you. And with that, we've come to the end of the presentation. So I hope that everything that we've covered today has helped you see that you are in the driver's seat, right? That mastering your state of being is an intentional process. It's an intentional decision. You decide who you want to be in the moment. And it's not talking about, if you're feeling sad right now, if you're feeling angry right now, and deciding that you don't want to be angry right now and pushing that emotion aside. We're not talking about suppressing them, right? We're just talking about in this moment, how we want to present ourselves to that situation to be able to move through this particular experience and come out the other side, getting the outcome that we want, right? But we also need to look at that emotion that came up in terms of reflection. So when you finish the day, right? This is why reflection is so important, is that when you finish the day, one particular experience throughout the day will stand out to you the most, right? And that is when you work through why that emotion. That's when you work through your emotion as a function, right? Why did that trigger that anger so much, right? What is beneath that anger that needs to be worked through? And we'll cover that in the next week, in the next few weeks, right? We don't want to start suppressing emotions. We want to start working through them. However, we also want to know how to control them in the moment, right? We can either suppress them or release them. And we'll talk about that in a later week. But for now, know that your state of being is your power in your control. And as long as you're able to influence how you feel or your thoughts, you're able to control your state of being. And I will upload you know what? Let's do it now. Should we do it now? No, I'll upload it as a separate resource, actually. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions about any of what I touched on today, definitely send me a message or put it in the community thread. Ask questions, right? If something doesn't sit right, doesn't feel right, or you're not sure about certain things, send me a message. Let's start a discussion. You're in this to create a better life for yourself. You're in this to create a better version of yourself, to start being in control of your life and be on purpose with your life and exit this cycle of overwhelm, of just allowing life to move you through or be on autopilot and be on this hamster wheel of just, every single day showing up like Groundhog Day. You want to be very intentional. Like, when weekend comes, sometimes on a Saturday morning when I was working full time, Saturday morning can feel like I'm in such a daze, like I just wake up in the morning just feeling like, oh my God, that was a tough week, right? I feel like I need to use the next 2 days to really unwind from the week. Or you come into the weekend, it's like, that was such a great week. It was intense. There was so much to work through, but it's the weekend now. It's me time. It's my time. I can live my life to the fullest the way I want to, etc. You see how that's a very different energy. That's where we want to start being. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. I will post this replay onto the portal. And if there's any questions, like I said, send me a message. If there's something that you really want to deep dive into, send me a message and we can work closely together to help you work through that. I've got different offers going on as well. We can talk about private coaching. We can talk about one-off sessions, hypnosis sessions, quantum healing, whatever it is that's coming up for you right now that you really want to start moving into and through. Send me a message. I'm always available to have a chat to anybody who really wants to take control of their outcome. This is what we're here for. So don't miss the opportunity. If it's right here in front of you, it's ready to be integrated, ready to be moved through. So thank you, everybody. I will catch you next week. I will catch you in the community as well. So post your questions, post your post your shares, if anything that comes up that you want to share with us that's come up for you today. Feel free to post it. This is a safe space. It's a private group for the people who are in here. Don't feel like you're the only one going through certain things. It's when you suppress things, that's when it starts taking root in your reality. So time is now to move through it, is all I'm saying. So yeah. Have a great week, everybody. Remember that you can always reach out to the community or to myself personally. And I'm on the other side of the chat. There's no VA or whatever. I run everything from start to finish. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to your transformation. And I really hope that this is a good kickstart for the next following weeks. So yeah, have a great day, everybody.